of dabbled in farming. After the service, I went to Australia and I picked tomatoes down there and worked on some farms, worked on an herb farm. And then I started going to school at CSU Stanislaus. So I was living in the foothills and I was driving to CSU Stanislaus and passing all the farms, and I was studying biology and started emphasizing on botany and that type of thing. During the last semester, I had planted tons of crops, a lot of tomatoes and just a mixed crop garden. And I started a small CSA and did the CSA for a while, and then got involved in raising hens for eggs. And I read Joel Salatin's book, You Can Farm, and Pastured Poultry Profits, and started raising meat birds. At the time I was a vegetarian, and, and then I started eating meat after I raised the chickens. And then let's see, what else did I do? That was my last farm. And then I moved out here 5 years ago and just started from scratch and built this farm up. I had worked for myself for so long that I really didn't feel like I could work for somebody else. I didn't feel like I could punch a clock every day and do that kind of thing. I found it just really boring. And I guess that's what I like about farming, is just the diversity of tasks every day. And every day is different. There's a lot of things that are the same, but there's things to learn. And we've had the farm for about 4 or 5 years, and then we just started farming this piece of land about six months ago. And we moved a whole bunch of stuff over here, and this is kind of our base of operations now. I grew up slaughtering chickens and plucking chickens and doing all that kind of stuff. So for me, it was kind of always it was my roots, you know. Done things like we've had female pigs get pregnant too soon and lose almost entire litters because the pigs get jammed up inside the sow and end up suffocating inside of them because the sow isn't developed well enough. We have raised chickens in conditions where they'll end up piling up on each other because they get cold, that type of thing. And it's stuff that you just can't predict. And a lot of mistakes don't involve the animals dying. They just involve tons of labor because of the mistake that you've made. Maybe it's a design flaw in a chicken house, and all the hens roost on top of that chicken house, and you have to try and outsmart them and that type of thing. I think it's great to have a college education, but it's not great to have $20,000, $25,000 of student loan bills, student loan payments. If you're a learner that can learn on your own and read books, that's a great way to do it. And if you have a biology and chemistry background, I think that definitely helps. It's good to have a foundation in biology, for sure. But going to college, I would say your time could be better spent actually farming, working on a farm. Work for free if you have to.
I think I would differ on this viewpoint. I recommend getting a college degree just because it opens more doors, more opportunities for you. Say you want to try farming for 20 years and then after that you want to get into teaching or change your career path. That opportunity is available to you. Whereas if you go straight into farming after you get out of the service, you might be stuck with that. And once you hit your 50s or 60s, it's a little bit hard physically to keep farming, and I think it's good to have other options at that point.
We don't mind having interns, and we're open to that idea. But if somebody's going to intern on our farm, they have to be willing to work and work as hard as anybody else that's going to come out on this farm. We're not giving away free information and an experience on our farm to somebody who's going to work half as much as somebody else. We had an experience with an intern that came out here just recently, and he just didn't work hard enough, and we didn't want him out here. Nick, who works for us now, he actually offered to work for us for less just because he wanted the experience of working on a farm. He's a guy that is reading all the books that I've read already and asking me questions about it. He's reading Joel Salatin's books and Gene Logsdon and that type of thing. So yeah, if somebody really has an interest, it's great to have them on the farm. But if they just have a passing interest, then we don't really want them, and they really need to be willing to work. But if that's all there, then yeah, that's great. And we recently got a trailer, so we actually have a place that we can put an intern up and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and before I went back to school to get my master's, I apprenticed on about 5 different organic farms around the Northwest. And I highly recommend it from the perspective of learning the craft and the skill of farming. But as Jim said, you have to be, as an apprentice or an intern, you should put in just as much effort as the paid employees, if not more. Otherwise, you're actually a burden for the farmer.
They have worked hard, and they've also, in general, they've worked just strange hours. You know, working all night. We have times where we have to work after dark, whether it's loading the chickens into the trailers and that type of thing. So the ability to get up early and have no problem with that, and to work late if you have to, and just work unusual hours. Vets definitely have that, and they also have a sense of responsibility and maybe a little bit more of an attention to detail, because that's kind of drilled into you in the military. There's definitely days where I don't want to be here, but I don't really have a choice. The animals need to be fed and that kind of thing. Some of the toughest times that we have are in the winter time when it's raining and muddy, and with the pigs, they're always making mud, and you have to deal with them. It's difficult to work in that type of situation. And here on the Central Coast, we have the best weather in the spring and summer and fall, and there's times when it's just so beautiful out you can't believe it, and we're outside with nature, and there's hawks flying around, and just beautiful days. It's nice.
Yeah, I think some of the other lows are that it's been really difficult for us to find land. We could dramatically expand our business if we had more access to land, and I think there's a lot of competition for land around here, and not many people want to rent to livestock producers because I think they have a bad vision of what that might look like. But we're very different than your standard operation. We practice rotational grazing, so we don't create, overgrazed mud patches. But that's been really hard, getting long-term leases, getting affordable land, because most of the land is priced for strawberry production. It's too expensive for us. But getting to be our own boss, getting to be creative and innovative. We're always talking every night about what we're going to do next, or do different, or change. You can't do that if you're working for somebody else, obviously. And it's also really rewarding to see how we've changed customers' lives. We've improved their health. They bring their families and their children here. Their children are learning where food comes from. That's pretty awesome.
I was in the first Gulf War, and when I got out, I went to Australia and worked on farms down there. And yeah, it was great for me to not have to deal with people so much, and just be outdoors and just think, and yeah, it definitely helped me. And I think working around animals is really good for that too. Farming, and this type of farming, small farming, it's growing. And part of the reason we do it is because there's a market for it. If there was no market for it, we could love it all we want, but we wouldn't be able to make a living doing it. We'd do it as a hobby and something we did when we came home from our real job. But yeah, there's a lot of demand right now, and it's always seems to start in California and maybe somewhat in New York. I hear local food is really important and big in New York, but it's spreading, and people are realizing that the food that they're eating is garbage, and they want good food, and somebody's got to grow it.